And while we are waiting, okay, that's very fast. So, good morning or good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to this very special webinar on teacher policy in Seychelles. This is really a celebration of our excellent teacher policy being formed, and ICBA was very fortunate to accompany the process. This process went through 18 months or nearly 2 years, but it was very inclusive and also very technical and also caring process. So I would like to also thank Madame Ndongjata and Therese for starting this excellent partnership about 2 years ago. Now, this webinar is to share the process and the output and outcome of this teacher policy in Seychelles. Seychelles is a beautiful and a small country, but the teachers' policy from small countries can also influence other countries. And I see that Mozambican colleagues are here. They are learning from Seychelles. Really, for us. The colleagues also came to visit Ethiopia. So we had one of the smallest countries in Africa and one of the biggest countries in Africa sharing ideas and putting their thoughts together for a quality education where teachers' roles are very important. So that's all from me. We are going to start a very exciting webinar. Just a few housekeeping rules. If you're not speaking, please put your microphone on mute. And also, when you have questions or comments, please feel free to use the chat board. I think that's all. And you will have a chance to uh, ask questions by raising a hand later on. So we have exciting speakers. So first, I'm asking Mrs. Anne-Therese Ndongjata, the Director of UNESCO Regional Office for East Africa, based in Nairobi. My sister Anne-Therese, you have 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Yumiko. Thank you for this invitation. This has been a long journey, but let me use it as an opportunity to send greetings to Dr. Odile Decomaran, if I'm not pronouncing right, and other senior officials that are present, our partners that are with us, colleagues. This is great. I cannot say a whole lot in 5 minutes, but Seychelles, being small as it is, represents also a very important partnership with UNESCO. And over the period, from all the things that they have asked, we have been able to really engage differently. And teachers being one of them. The teaching profession and teachers is really something very, very key in how we're looking at education, because with all the challenges, we need to put emphasis on teachers. We need to put emphasis on teachers because even as we talk about the future of education, the role of teachers becomes so very important. So the quality of education in any country is dependent on teachers. Now, when we're talking about the challenges of COVID, looking at the resources, whatever we need to use to improve learning requires focusing on ensuring that the teachers have it. And more importantly, also, governments are supposed to see teachers as very, very key and important in terms of their qualifications, in terms of the recruitment, the deployment, in terms of their career development. Yesterday, for instance, I was with the Alligator organization looking at the future. And again, there was the emphasis on teachers, because when we look at the skills that are required in the 21st century, we go back to the 4 pillars of education. And it is key that teachers are there to accompany the students to learn better, to learn to be, to learn to know, to learn to do, and to learn to live together. But what skills do teachers need? The policy must be able to really be very balanced, not to expect so much of the teachers and not to give, and not really paying attention to what they should give teachers. And so I believe as we look at the policy, there are some conditions that are key to making it possible for teacher policy development. And these conditions are, kind of embrace quite a number of areas in terms of the consistency between the policy and existing policies and structures, the comprehensive and strategic planning, the engaging teachers, ensuring that there is evidence informed by the policy development, the aspect of the country ownership, and then the capacity of the Ministry of the or the Department of Education to really ensure that there is real social dialogue around the role of teachers and the importance of teachers for the kind of change we need in the future. So I want to use this opportunity to congratulate the ministry, congratulate the colleagues, congratulate IGBA for really putting in their very best in ensuring that we come up to developing a policy. Now, when we have a policy, the next thing is to ensure that we look at practice and praxis. And so it's also welcome that we have Mozambique looking on to see how they too can really engage. But let me close by saying the one important thing we need in education and the future of education is to have a well-developed teacher education policy that is accompanied with the right level of support to get the right level of motivation for teachers, so that they look not only at the curriculum, traditional curriculum, but they are also able to look at the softer skills that students need today to navigate through the challenges and all the pandemics that are coming in. So teachers are key, and I want to thank you and congratulate you and to say UNESCO continues to reaffirm its support of Seychelles, even though you don't belong to the category of least developed countries. Thank you very much, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Anne-Therese, for excellent and encouraging remarks. Yes, indeed, the centrality of teachers' roles are more and more recognized, and then we have to implement the policies. Again, thank you very much for your excellent leadership to work with us all. Now, I would like to invite here Dr. Odile de Comolmond. Your elegant name is a bit difficult to pronounce, but she's going to give us a keynote. You have 8 minutes, madam. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Anne-Therese, for addressing the pertinent issues in education. Anyway, Dr. Anne-Therese Dongjata, Director of UNESCO Regional Office for Eastern Africa, Dr. Yumiko Yokozeke, Director of UNESCO ICBA, Dr. Benyam Sise Mendiso, and all staff of ICBA, representatives of the different countries here online, UNESCO National Commission Secretary General, Dr. Marilyn Waro, Seychelles team. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon for us this afternoon. I don't know if for you, some of you may be good morning. Well, greetings to you all. On behalf of the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development, I would like, first of all, to thank the UNESCO Regional Office for organizing this webinar. And it is indeed a pleasure for us to share our experience on the development of the teacher management policy here in Seychelles. I also believe that it is important for me to reiterate some of the points mentioned in the concept note, mainly that the Seychelles has a comprehensive education system. It provides access to 11 years of pre-compulsory education, 6 years in primary and 5 years in secondary to children who are of school going age, representing around 23% of our population. It also provides access to pre-primary, this is 2 years of creche, and also tertiary non-university education and training, which we call professional centers. All these are free, but not compulsory. Although much progress has been made in the education sector and all children have a free access of at least 11 years of comprehensive education, the education system is facing a number of challenges in terms of quality, including issues related to teacher management and development. Moreover, pupils' performance is far below the national target. Our national target is 50% grade C or better in their examinations. There is also the mounting problem of ineffective teaching and the absence of a national teacher regulation up to now. The situational analysis conducted for the preparation of the education sector medium-term strategic plan, the MTS 2013-2017, highlighted the extent of teacher shortage, both at primary and secondary levels, as well as all cadre like the special education needs coordinators and education leaders within the system. It also highlighted the unmet training needs of education professionals. This situation is further compounded by the high teacher attrition rate and the fact that, like many other countries, Seychelles is finding it difficult to attract young Seychellois with high academic background to the teaching profession. Presently, there are approximately 1,700 primary and secondary teachers in the public education system, of which 300 are non-Seychellois. Seychelles, as a small island developing state, well before its independence in 1976, has been benefiting from the support and assistance of a small number of non-Seychellois teachers at secondary level only, for which, of course, we are very grateful. This long-standing practice proved to be highly beneficial for our education system. Unfortunately, Seychelles' dependency on the services of non-Seychellois teachers is witnessing a marked increase over the years at secondary level. Furthermore, last year, Seychelles had to recruit for the first time a group of non-Seychellois teachers at primary level. Well, we said that this was a short-term measure to address the teacher shortage at that level, contrary to our education recruitment practices. Ladies and gentlemen, following the audit of the MTS 2013-2017, improving quality and retention of teachers remained as priority areas in the MTS, in the new MTS 2018-2022, focusing on teacher recruitment, deployment, development, and retention to support the teaching profession and strengthen teacher education for improved learning outcomes. Among other challenges, the inadequacy of teaching standards, the difficulty to manage teachers, and to ensure effective teaching and development of the teaching profession. Cognizant of the challenges mentioned above, a teacher management and development section was set up to provide strategic leadership on matters regarding teacher management and development, career path, and to help professionalize the teaching profession in collaboration with key stakeholders for improved performance. To achieve this, understandably, a number of frameworks will have to be in place to address the TMD-related challenges. And central to the frameworks is a teacher management and development policy. As a ministry, we are indeed very pleased to have been able to develop a teacher management and development policy, which was approved in July 2020 by the ministers. schools as from January 2021. It seeks to improve the quality of learning outcomes and make the education system more efficient and performing. It provides a framework for the standardization of the teaching profession in terms of recruitment, deployment, development, and retention of teachers. It focuses on 5 thematic areas, namely teacher management and professional status, educational leadership and management, teacher empowerment, teacher professionalization, and teacher development. Hence, the teacher management and development policy is paramount to the quest of the ministry in addressing its priority areas and development, which would ultimately lead to improved learner performance and behavior. This policy has been formulated following an in-depth documentary analysis of relevant documents, which brought to light numerous challenges and emerging issues affecting educational professionals and the teaching profession in general, of which the process will be shared in the later presentations today. Ladies and gentlemen, a number of concrete actions are being undertaken by the ministry through the TMD section, in partnership, of course, with the Seychelles Institute of Teacher Education and also the University of Seychelles, UNISE, to have the required number of qualified and competent education professionals in the Seychelles education system. Some of those strategies are the introduction of the Aspiring Teachers Program, the Masters in Educational Leadership Program, and also the training towards the blended mode training, which catered for a large number of in-service teachers. In view of time, I will cut it short. In case you want to have further information on the strategies mentioned, we can provide that later. But at this point, I would like to make mention to UNESCO Regional Office and the assistance provided in the process of the development of the policy. We are very grateful to also ICBA, especially for the training conducted in January 2019, and also for the continued support. We continue to count on the support of the regional office, ICBA, and also all the other partners relevant for this mission at hand. And I would like to particularly thank Anne-Thérèse Ndongjata for initiating this process and for the continued support throughout the process in different forms, and for keeping in touch also with us to monitor our progress in this important endeavor. A special thank you also to the Seychelles technical team, and thank you all for your interest in the Seychelles experience. I wish you a fruitful webinar and hope we can clarify any matter that may arise. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Odile, for a very informative keynote, where you illustrated challenges as well as content of the TMD policy, teacher management development policy, which has an excellent implementation plan. I am really impressed, and then this will be an excellent lesson for many other countries in the region. So thank you very much. We really look forward to hear more in details from your colleagues. So I think from here, Binyam, are you going to take over to Chair, please go ahead.
I hand over to Mr. Souf now.
Yeah. Yes, Yumiko, thank you very much. Henok, can you hear me well?
Yes, we do.
Hello, Henok.
Yes, I can hear you, Binyam.
Yes, Binyam, I can hear you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon to all who have joined us for this webinar on teacher policy development in the Seychelles. My name is Binyam Sisai, and I work as a program officer for UNESCO. And I'll be moderating the second part of the session. I'm honored to be part of the team from ICBA's side to closely accompany the policy development core team in the Republic of Seychelles. And I'm really impressed with the commitment and determination of the team and the government to bring this policy to this stage. And I wanted to also mention that, as I want to reiterate that, as Dr. Yumiko mentioned earlier, please, if you have any comments and questions, you can put them in the chat room. Today, we will be listening to two presentations. One from Mr. Alex Souf, who is the Chief Officer for Teacher Management and Development at the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development in the Republic of Seychelles. And we will start with that presentation. He is the chair of the technical committee, and he will be talking about the teacher policy development processes by highlighting the opportunities and the challenges that the policy development process faced. Mr. Alex, so the mic is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Binyam Sisay. Ms. Antirez Udonjata, Director of UNESCO Region Office for Eastern Africa. Dr. Yumiko Yokozeki, Director of UNESCO ICBA. Dr. Binyam Sisemendisu, Staff of ICBA. Dr. Mariren Wao, Secretary General, National Commission for UNESCO. Representative of the different countries, Seychelles team. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to you all. I would like to start by joining the PS Dr. Odile Komamo in expressing Seychelles TMD technical team sincere thanks and gratitude to UNESCO Regional Office for Eastern Africa, to UNESCO ICBA, Seychelles National Commission for UNESCO, and you too, Dr. Binyam Sisay, for giving us the opportunity to share Seychelles' experience. Let me clarify one little point, Dr. Binyam. We have one presentation to be shared between myself and Mrs. Rojana Gil, the director of the Seychelles Institute of Teacher Education. This implies that our presentation is divided into two parts. Part one will be which focuses on the policy development process, and part two, the implementation process and the opportunities the policy is going to provide for Seychelles. In my presentation, the first part, obviously, I will be providing an overview of the policy, the methodology we used, and the challenges we encountered and how we managed to overcome them. So to start the PowerPoint presentation, the background, the TMD policy is linked to the ministry's MTS, which is the Medium-Term Strategic Plan 2018-2022 and beyond, priority areas focusing on issues related to teacher management and development. To give special attention to these teacher management and development related issues, like it has been pointed out by the Principal Secretary, a teacher management and development was set up within the ministry. The main purpose of that is to provide strategic leadership and to ensure that the required frameworks are in place, among which, like the Principal Secretary pointed out, is a TMD policy. The development process of the TMD policy it started from October 2018, and we managed to complete the task in July 2020. Of course, with the technical assistance of ICBA. Now, the main components of the teacher management policy are the statements of intent. The policy vision. Seychelles, we want teaching becomes the #1 profession as it used to be a couple of years ago. And the mission of the TMD policy, to assist in transforming the education landscape for improved teacher and learner performance. The purpose of the policy, this policy provides a framework for the standardization and professionalization of the teaching profession in terms of 4 key pillars, which are recruitment, deployment, development, and retention of teachers through a series of strategies. The objectives, in brief, of the policy. 1, to raise the status of the teaching profession, to enhance the education institution management and administration system, to empower teachers to have a voice and be represented in major decision making, to standardize the teaching profession, qualifications, and practice across all levels of the education system. And finally, to strengthen pre-service, in-service, and continuing professional development for effective delivery of quality teaching, which will lead to enhanced learning. The scope of the policy. Next slide, please. Yeah, the scope. This policy targets all teachers, processes, and practices within the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development at headquarters level and in all public educational institutions. The policy addresses 5 dimensions, or we may refer to them as thematic areas. The first one, teacher management and professional status. The second dimension, educational leadership and management. Number 3, teacher empowerment. Number 4, teacher professionalization. And the 5th one, teacher development. Now, these 5 dimensions have been elaborated in terms of goals, elements, and policy statements and strategic statements. In total, like it has been mentioned, we have 5 dimensions. For each dimension, we've elaborated 1 goal. Each goal has been further elaborated in terms of elements ranging from 1 to 8 elements. So in all, the 5 dimensions, we have a total of 17 elements for them. Each element has a policy statement, and in some countries, they refer to them as problem statements. And each policy statement has been elaborated in terms of strategic statements. In total, we have 57 of these statements. Excuse me. These are the main components of the TMD policy, in short. Now I will turn your attention to the methodology that the team used to arrive at developing the policy. As it has been pointed out, the initial stage, everything was. Can I proceed, Dr. Is it okay?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. It was initiated as early as of March 2018 with the visit of Antares Udonjata along with Yumiko and other officers. So they agree to accompany Seychelles in this endeavor. So the work really kick-started with the visit of Dr. Biniam Sise to our shore in October 2018. It was a very short working work, and 6 of our team members participated in this working or training session, as we call it. Members over those 2 days, members were introduced to the policy development process and relevant references and resources. And also we decided on the phases for the development process. We also agreed on using recent reports conducted by a number of as our main reference document or source documents of evidence for the situation analysis, of which at that time focused on 9 dimensions, which were provided by ICBA. And the 9 dimensions that we used at the initial stage were teacher recruitment and retention, teacher education, initial and continuing, deployment, career structures or career path, teacher employment and working conditions, reward and remuneration, teacher standards, teacher accountability, and the 9th one, school governance. We also agreed on a 1-week capacity building workshop in Addis Ababa in January 2019. So the team were assigned with sufficient tasks so that from October to the time Addis Ababa in January to have done some compilation of the situation analysis, of course, based on pertinent points. Phase 1, yeah. So from December, we did the compilation, the 1-week capacity building with the list of members who participated in that way. Myself, of course, we have Mrs. Mavis Lespoir, Mr. Gilles, Aini Zoedi, Jacqueline Gertrude, and Dr. Veronique Figaro. During the training over at ICBA, we were advised, given of the nature of the pertinent points that we are obtaining, to, instead of using 9 dimensions, to try and shorten the pillars, the dimension. Instead, we selected not more than 5 dimensions, of which I shared them earlier. And of course, we were advised to prepare the report and of course the policy summary. So finalized the situation analysis. We did arrive at that by the end of February. We managed to have our situation analysis where we categorize the pertinent points, and we also drew up a long list of recommendations of which would guide the development of the policy. Phase 2, we produced the situation analysis report. Now, what difference is there between the situation analysis and the report? Anyway, if I can reach for that big document, the report. Anyway, anyway, they won't be able to see the report, but from the recommendation, the list of recommendations that we drew, we turn them in the report into strategic statements, and also we drew up the timeline. So once we worked on the policy, we had also a very clear idea, the domain that we will be working on at the initial stage of the implementation of the policy. So comes January 2021, we are clear, which of course, Mr. Gilles will be talking about the implementation process. What are the strategic elements that the TMD team will be addressing over the first 2 years? Then phase 3, following the finalization of the report, and it was approved by the senior management of the Ministry of Education, the team embarked on the development of the policy. So prior to that, we were advised by IGBA to work on a policy summary. I think it was only a 3-page document. So we did that alongside the production of the situation analysis report. But the drafting, I think, of the policy take the bulk of the work. So from June to September 2019, we met throughout the working exercise from October. In fact, I forgot to mention, we had the time off from our immediate supervisor through the PS of the ministry, that allowed to work 3 hours, that's half day, once a week. But obviously, time proved to be limited, so the team accepted to give occasionally their weekends so that we could accelerate the work at hand then. So once we've drafted the policy, we embarked on the next phase. We had a draft. We embarked on what we refer to as social dialogue or consultations. We had a series of consultation sessions. We started the very first one to coincide with the week, the International Teachers' Day, but for us, we celebrate over a week in October 2019. So we have a large group of teachers representing all the schools, 35 schools in the country, to participate in the first session. Then other sessions were organized with key stakeholders at regional levels. That include also the school councils, even the chairpersons of the professional center boards. Then, of course, the first draft, more or less close to finalizations, that bring us to phase 6. We presented to the senior management of the ministry, chaired by the minister himself. At that time, it was herself, it was Mrs. Jean Simeon. Then it was agreed that the policy needs to be enriched a little bit further. So a small team from the senior management team worked alongside the policy development technical team to enrich the policy. But we anticipated that this exercise would take a very short time, but we unfortunately, like other countries, we were struck by the COVID-19 pandemic, which impeded the work, the exercise. So it took us quite a while. So by June, we managed to complete the exercise, and early in July 2020, we presented the final product to SMC. It was approved and it was ready, and the same month, it was approved by the Cabinet of Ministers And now we following the approval, of course, it was time for us to share to the general public, and a press conference was organized to where the different media houses, be it TV, radio, or print, were invited. And this was done in August. And of course, the policy, we are pleased that it is now posted on the ministry's website. When we turn an eye on the challenges and the strategies we undertook to overcome them, I've only listed the most pertinent ones. These are mainly respecting weekly working session. That proved to be a challenge in the sense, like I pointed out earlier, because all the members, they come from different section, division, or institutions, of course. During the course of the year, our priorities changes, and of course, we can't respect the schedule, but we tried as far as possible to reschedule the working session during the course of the same week. If not possible, then of course, the team were keen to surrender their weekend, or we go on a retreat when it was possible, to make sure that we kept the right pace of the work. Well, at times, of course, we fell short in terms of expertise when it comes to certain aspects of the development of the policy, but we turn to our technical assistance, which is from ICBA, to guide us to unlock whenever we were stuck. And then accessing to some of the recent research documents, those which have been conducted by consultants hired by the ministry. Of course, they were centrally kept. When it came to those conducted by as a thesis for postgraduate, of course, that posed a little bit of a problem. But Seychelles, being a small country where everyone knows everyone, it was not that difficult for us to have access to the training plan for the past few years, say 6 years or so. It was easy for us to track down those people who have conducted research in recent years, and if they've done something in the field to do with issues related to teacher management and development, then we could have access to their research. And of course, validation, the consultative meetings, this requires took a bit of time, but to expedite things, we organize regional meetings where we group a number of representatives from the different key institutions, and things moved, I think, to a pace which satisfied the team concerned. I would, at that point, say thank you very much. It's not the end of the presentation. I will pass over to Mrs. Gilles, the director of the Seychelles Institute for Teacher Education, to share what we plan to do in terms of the implementation of what we are doing, and also what opportunities we hope the policy will bring for Seychelles. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Just to say, we have another 10 minutes for Miss Rosiana Jules, who is the director of Seychelles Institute of Teacher Education. The screen is yours.
Yes. So good afternoon, everyone. Continuation of our presentation, the implementation process. Since July, as soon as we delivered or handed over the policy, we've started to develop a comprehensive action plan for each strategic statement from the policy. As you may remember, we have 57 strategic statements. So it is going to be quite a comprehensive document, and a good amount of work to get done. We have also developed terms of reference for a steering committee, which we will establish next year to give oversight to the implementation of the policy, to ensure that whatever the technical team or the coordination team that we will set up is doing the work as supposed to, and also validate some of the documents that we will be putting forward for implementation. I've mentioned the coordination team. We yet to develop its TOR for that, and we hope to start doing that very soon. Then we have the coordination of sectorial plans. We've started on that in September. And then the most of the work has to do with the development of guidelines and framework. And looking at all the strategies, everything that needs to be done, we have certain documents that are already in existence that we need to review and probably develop new ones or amend or put it on par with the current development. So this is a work that needs, if we, when you have access, let's say we take an example of policy statement 2 from element 1.2. We have around 22 documents that needs to be developed for only this policy, this one strategy. And we've already developed 9. We've left with all the others for this particular statement. And we have 57 to go. Right, so there's much work. We've put a time frame, August to December, but I'm sure some of the work will will be moved to 2021. And it will be ongoing process of implementation. The monitoring plan also, we've started development. But I think what we've been doing is the technical team, like you've seen, there are only 6 members on the team. And we've been working on all the documents so that we can have something to start off when we start in 2021. But there are things that we will have to keep developing as we move forward. And another area for development is the teacher management information system. We want this to be integrated in the MIS for the ministry so that we can have clear, easy, and access to all teachers' information when we need in regards to their qualification and needs for training, etc. And we hope to start implementation in January 2021 as approved by the Cabinet of Ministers. The opportunities. With the implementation of the policy, we hope to have equitable development of deployment of teachers, provision of coherent and systematic training, especially if we start thinking in terms of CPD. Nowadays, it's the school requesting when they have the needs, but when we have this system and the policy, we can organize this better. Opportunity for teachers to have a voice. Having a qualified teacher in every classroom. This is one of our main aim. All educational institutions will be managed by qualified leaders. The education system will be more effective and efficient. And teaching will be the #1 profession in Seychelles. With regards to policy monitoring, evaluation, and review, the teacher management and development section will carry out annual update on implementation of the action plan as per the established framework. And the coordinating team shall have the responsibility to ensure that the procedures set forth in the policy are applied. And this will also be supported by the steering committee, which will have oversight the implementation of the policy. And an interim evaluation is expected to be conducted after 3 years of implementation. Okay. And the first review is expected to take place in 2025, if necessary or as necessary. So I'll conclude and say thank you to everyone for the opportunity, and we welcome your questions.
Thank you very, very much, Alex and Rosiana, for this very insightful and comprehensive presentation. The presentation was very rich, and it really showed us what it takes to have a teacher policy, and all the steps that has to be the right step that has to be taken into account, but also the challenges that we may face. And I'm glad that those challenges didn't stop you from moving forward. In fact, you have overcome the challenges, and we are now at the end of a phase 1 where the policy has been approved. But I'm also glad that Rosiana, briefed us as soon as with the policy development. Once the policy is developed, it's a stage where we celebrate to be at that step. But at the same time, it's also a beginning of a new phase where implementation has to come, and so much preparation has to be done in order for that to happen. So I'm very glad that you have given us a comprehensive account of the policy development process in the Seychelles, and we're very glad with all the inputs and the presentation. Now we have time for some comments and questions. I would like to ask my colleague Risi, who has been monitoring closely the chat box for if there are any questions and comments. Otherwise, if there aren't any in the chat box, we can also open it up for some questions for the participants. Risi, can you hear me? We have any? Can you forward 2-3 questions if there are any?
Hi, Binyam. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the very informative and insightful presentation. And so far, I have 4 questions in the, okay, there are more coming. So I will pick 3 questions first for our speakers. So the first question is from Yumiko. It's about revitalization of teaching profession. So the question is, what is the specific strategy for making teaching profession attractive for the young people in Seychelles to replace foreign teachers? So that is the first question. And I wonder if maybe Alex or Rosiana could maybe provide some examples about it. Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much for the very important questions. It's true, we don't have the full answer, but what we are doing in the process. As it was pointed out in the keynote by the Principal Secretary, in 2015, we introduced what we call the Aspiring Teacher Program. And to give it more impetus, we launched this year, in October, the Aspiring Teachers Club in an attempt to better channel or encourage secondary students to take up teaching. So in a way, it's a breeding ground to to mold them, to encourage them to eventually join the teacher training institution. Another thing that we're doing at the ministry's level, the teacher scheme of service has been reviewed, but some of the benefits, it's true that the ministry envisaged to pass on to the teachers cannot be implemented at once. So it's incremental. So there's a number of benefits already that teachers currently in practice are enjoying. But anyway, the scheme in itself is reviewed every 5 years. That's two of the key things that we are doing. And of course, we
like marketable skills.
Training opportunities. We keep on providing opportunities for in-service teachers to upgrade. For example, the prescribed minimum qualification for teachers is the diploma level, but we encourage them locally to be able to upgrade their qualifications to advanced diploma level at the Seychelles Institute of Teacher Education. And of course, in return, they enjoy better package. Those who have the opportunity, of course, we cannot send everybody to get the chance to follow first degree level training. Upon completion, they benefit with an allowance for housing, which is quite considerable. And after the period of 2 to 4 years, it forms part and parcel of the salary package. These are among some of the incentive to attract young people, or especially now this present era where we've been struck with the COVID-19, those people who want to change career, reorient their career, they can be trained and take up teaching as a future career. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Alex. Thank you for sharing the actions and your strategies and the examples from Seychelles. It's really, really helpful, and it's definitely a learning process. And the second question is about the costed financing. So could you please provide some information about the cost and the financing during the process, both in the development and the implementation of the policy? Thank you. Over to you, Alex and Rosianna.
I have to be honest, we haven't costed the calculation. We are all really per week to allocate time, and it took us in total possibly around 70 working days full time. Then it's 6 people. That's equate to about 2 to 3 months. Say on average, I don't know the salary of everybody, but if we were to put an average of 20,000 a month, then for 3 months, that would be 60,000 for one person. And for 6 of us, 6 lots of that would be well over 300,000, the process in doing that. But it's like it's a hidden cost, which ourselves, we never took conscious of that until this question is posed. Yeah, thank you very much. I don't know whether Mrs. Jill would like to add. Oh. No, I don't know the salary.
Thank you, Alex.
Sorry,
yes,
is there another part of the question? I've only answered the cost. Is there? That's all. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Alex, about about your answers on the cost and financing. And the third question is about some key learning point from this policy development process. So what have you learned about your ministry or your education sector from this policy development process? Could you please talk about a few points, like key learning points from this process? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this. I'm going, if with your permission, I'm going to open it to the team as a whole, if they are willing to what we've learned in the process.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody?
I think for me, we've seen that we have a lot of resources. We have a lot of documents at hand, but one thing we are not putting them into application, or we are not monitoring its implementation. Because when we are looking at doing our documentary analysis, in the list of the 22 documents I mentioned for one of the statements, there are things that are there, but they are not together. They are scattered everywhere. So if we can have a proper repository where we can store everything, this will be a good way for us to move. And part of this process, I think, the implementation of this policy will help us to start doing that. And I think there are things that we've developed for a while. It's been there, like for 5 years, we've tried implementing, but then we haven't moved forward with it. And I think also one of the lessons we've learned, there are certain strategies probably that we need to probably pilot before we do certain mass implementation. And this comes from feedback when we had our consultative meetings with school, with teachers and other key stakeholders. So we have a lot, but we just need to put our hands on everything and put them together. And I think if we start doing that, it will be faster work for us and easier for us to review all the documents that needs to be reviewed for the implementation of the policy. And very good experience, good teamwork, collaboration, expertise from the team. So self-taught ourselves a lot of things, and we've grown professionally in this process. And I'm very pleased with the support we got from IGBA and also from the team as well. So thank you.
If I may add, I think all the members, I don't think at the outset, when we were asked this task, that we will, in the space of time, be able to deliver. I think we now probably, we believe in ourselves. We've managed to develop the policy intended. And the good thing is that we have the members coming from the Seychelles Qualification Authority. We have members from the Seychelles Institute of Teacher Training, and of course, members coming from the Teacher Management and Development section within the ministry. So these three components, we are knowledgeable. Sorry, yeah, Teachers Council, sorry, four, and the Teachers Council, Secretariat. So these four, they are key in the education sector, I would say. So we are knowledgeable of what this policy is all about. Sujit has pointed out, when we will come to its implementation, we know it inside out. We know which element, which component is dependent onto which other sector. That is why in the implementation process, she mentioned the sectorial plan, so that we work in tandem, we work together. So like the Teachers Council, the component that they need to address, the teacher training, and that of the teacher management and development section, what we have to address. I think that's a beauty, and also with it's an eye opener in the sense that we have a wealth of ideas that consultant or the people have conducted research which were lying here and there on their respective shelf, and we've reached for them and we're learning from them, and we reviewed their findings to come up with the teacher management and development policy. And also another thing, even though like you asked, the question was asked about financing, for us, it was, we didn't realize that in terms of man hours, it was that costly. But it cost quite a fair bit to develop a policy. We learned that. And also, like Mr. Zhu pointed out, in drawing up the situation analysis report, we also drew up a timeline for us to address the over 57 strategic elements. So the lesson learned, there's no way we could do that over the first year. So what we did, we selected, we prioritized those strategic elements, so we don't have 57 to implement during the course of 2021, but they'll be progressive. That's a lesson we learned, and of course our implementation plan will reflect just that. I don't know, for the time being, I don't know if he has any...
No, I think you covered
most of the points, members at the back.
Hi.
Okay, so thank you very much. It seems that we've run dry in terms of the lesson.
May I?
No, thank you so
May I
much.
please?
Hello.
Hi,
I'm
Binyamin. Yes, please.
from Mozambique. May I?
Hold on, please. Are we done with the questions? Risi first.
So I may have one more question. Yeah.
Okay, Alex, please be with us for one more question from Risi, and
yes,
and then probably I'll give an opportunity from Remani from Mozambique, whom they are developing a teacher policy, and they wanted to ask a specific question. So I'll ask you an opportunity later, Mr. Remani, and please the last question, Risi.
Yes, so the last question is about partnership. Several participants are wondering if Seychelles team received support from other partners, and in this process, did a private sector involve in the process, and the role they also ask about the role of trade unions in the consultations toward the development of the teacher policy. So that is the last questions about the partnership. Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Initially on our team, we had one member. He was representing the civil society. But then, due to work commitment, along the way, he was compelled to stop working along with us. But when it comes to the work itself, we did not have direct involvement of public sector. But when it came to the validation consultative meeting, of course, our chairperson of or members of our school council, they come from all sectors of society. So they had the opportunity. We had a half day on a Saturday sessions where we shared the policy, and we acknowledge, we welcome their contribution. But other than that, when it comes to union, Seychelles, we don't have that active union per se, so it did not happen. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Mr. Seleman, Remani Seleman, please briefly questions.
Okay, yes, just brief question. Thank you very much for this, your presentation, which is, of course, very, 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 very understandable. And I think we've learned a lot about what you've done. I just want to ask two questions. It relates with the context. When you talk about the Teacher Education Institute, and what's the role actually? I heard that you've established the multisectoral team, but what's the role of the Teacher Institute itself? And then what you mean when you say, because makes a bit confusing comparing with my context to understand what you mean with. If you would like, please, to explain a bit about this. Thank you so much. Hope you get my question.
Thank you very much for your question. Unfortunately, the second part of the question, for some reason, there was an interruption and we did not hear properly. Is it written, or could you repeat, please?
Well, in some development, you were talking about the Minister of Education employees, if I did understand quite well. What you mean with this, and what is to do with the teacher policy? It doesn't cover the all teachers, primary education, primary school, secondary schools, and the pre-service, or it's just a sector that is being covered with the policy. Did you get that?
Yeah, thank you very much. There's two parts: the role of teacher education. When it comes to teacher education, there's one of the dimensions, one of the 5 dimensions which address or teacher development. And of course, when it comes to the development of teachers, it's we're referring to pre-service and in-service or continuous professional development. So in that respect, that way teacher training would come in when it comes to award-bearing qualifications for our teachers, be it the prescribed minimum prescribed qualification, and to some extent even higher. They can act as facilitators to make this happen, and also for short in-service training, it is their responsibility to provide training to all teachers in the system.
Okay.
And for the time being, we have only one teacher training institute in the country. The University of Seychelles, one university, it does provide degree level training, but it's not that many candidates are following teacher training through the University of Seychelles. Most of our in-service teachers have been going to other institutions overseas, post-advanced diploma. Now, maybe I'll try to explain why the different members we fall under the auspices of the Ministry of Education. Initially, the member who's now on our team representing the Seychelles Qualification Authority, prior to 2018, that member belonged to a body within the ministry that we call the Inspectorate Unit. But the Inspectorate Unit was under the umbrella of the Ministry of Education. Then it was transferred to an agency, which is the Seychelles Qualification Authority. Though at arm's length, it is directly responsible, that body, to the Minister of Education. So, but the partnership carried on. Also on our team, we have the Teachers' Council. I know in some countries, the Teachers' Council is an independent body to the ministry, but in our context, it falls under the Ministry of Education. Again, is a body which is answerable to the minister, directly to the minister, not to the principal secretary. And then, of course, teacher training and the teacher management and development section, we work in close collaboration. After all, one of the responsibilities of the teacher management is, of course, to look at teacher development. And in the context when they require training, of course, I have to liaise directly with the Teacher Training Institute for Education, which is site. So that is why I think we've had a team made up of such a composition.
Okay.
We don't know yet, like Mr. Gilles pointed out, the technical team's work is nearly to be over. We anticipate that under the guidance of the ministry that this body will be dissolved and be given a new mandate, because our role now would be to implement the policy. And of course, Mr. Jules mentioned that another body, of which the term of reference for both bodies, in fact, the technical team drew up the terms of reference. It's just a matter comes closer to the end of the year under the advice of the Principal Secretary, Dr. Jules de Comamo, that these two bodies will be appointed to drive the implementation of the policy.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, one little point I forgot to mention. The policies for both primary and secondary teachers. We wish we could have got representative of teachers on the team, on the development team, but when you have an acute shortage, it was an impediment. So, and also the urgency of having such a document, we felt that, well, let's the team draft. We had people on board who were keen to give their own time. That was another factor, and consult them to advise as to. And after all, it is the very first document. Okay. Should there be a need, like Mr. Jules pointed out, to have an interim review during the course of the implementation, we'll do that. But for us, it's a starting point.
Okay. Good.
Thank you so much, Alex. And thank you, Suleiman, for the questions. Just before we formally close, any words from Dr. Odile de Comoromont, or shall we? Yeah, in case you have something to say.
Well, I think it has been a very interesting discussion. Once again, maybe I would like to thank the regional office for initiating the webinar. I think I saw among the questions that you had, the benefits or maybe the positive outcome or strategies. I think the best thing is to have at in the headquarters a section to lead the implementation of this policy. So this is very important in terms of coordination. And the importance of this section also is to bring together the different partners. This collaboration is extremely important. Collaboration with the Institute of Teacher Education, with the divisions responsible for early childhood and primary education. Also, the Teachers Council, and the human resource development. So all of these, this collaboration is extremely important so as to ensure that we are leading this implementation with all the bodies concerned for professional development, for recruitment, for retention, and also for the registration of teachers. So I think it's extremely important. The good thing also is that some of these strategies are already on the way. We are now finalizing the regulation for the Teachers Council, and we hope to start the implementation also in 2021. And along with that, we have a new teacher appraisal policy, which is also an important document to help in the implementation of the TMD policy. So all in all, there are some good things happening, and we will continue to rely on assistance and support from regional office, and also we are also willing to share experience with learn from those that have already developed and maybe are implementing the policy in their respective countries. So thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Odile. Thank you very much, everyone. We are now closing, but just I know you have been expressing a lot of gratitude from your end to UNESCO and to everybody else, but we also want to take the opportunity to thank you. And for that, for a few words of concluding remark and thank you, I want to invite Mr. Saliu Sala, our Senior Program Coordinator, to just say a few words of thank you on behalf of ICBA. Saliu, can you please take the screen?
Yes, Binyam, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Binyam. Thank you very much, Dr. Yumiko, for having excellently moderated those sessions of this webinar. And thank you to all the panelists, Dr. Odile, Mr. Alex, Ms. Rosiana, and all the participants for the very informative and interactive session. This policy, as it was mentioned at the beginning, is the result of long years, maybe two years almost, of collaboration between the Ministry of Education and Human Resource Development of Seychelles, UNESCO Regional Office for Eastern and Southern Africa, and UNESCO International Institute for Capacity Building, ICBA. And we are honored to fulfill our goal by technically supporting the policy core team in the Seychelles. We also understand that the approval of the policy is only the beginning of the work, and we'll be very happy to closely accompany Seychelles in technically supporting the development of the several frameworks and implementation strategies as they move to the next step, practice and praxis, as Antares has just put it. I hope many African countries will learn from this great experience. A few words of thanks, as I started with thank you, I'll finish also with thank you. Thanking the policy development team in the Seychelles for their excellent work and for being willing to share their experience and challenges with the rest of the continent. This has informally started, by the way, this afternoon with Mozambique, who shows a real interest in what Seychelles is developing. Special thanks to thank you to Mr. Alex Souffet, who is the Chief Officer of Teacher Management and Development at the Ministry, for his commitment and all his efforts in getting the policy to this stage.